Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic. With us today, Taki from Eve to Adam, the New York boys. How are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for taking the time to do this. Appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The new album coming out, Locked and Loaded, on May 21st. Lots to talk about. And it's funny because you guys have been around for a really long time, but for a lot of people that I've talked to, it's almost like Eve to Adam came out of nowhere. So
yeah, it's true. It's an interesting experience to be in this group because we have a pretty well-known history, for about 10 years and being an independent band and fighting our way through and navigating our way through this music business and this industry to get to where we are right now. And it's true. It's like we've really turned the page and we've closed a chapter in an era and really started a new one. So there's quite a few fans that have known us through our history and everything we've gone through. But then there's an entirely new legion of people and a new audience that, for the very first time, this is their introduction to the band. So it's interesting to have this history and this kind of veteran perspective on having toured for so long and opened for so many bands and put out a few records. And, actually all of that really culminates to this moment. So, it's, every band has their story and, this is our story, and, you learn that, it's the truth, you learn with the truth and you live with the truth. And, it's what makes you who you are.
Absolutely. And I'm loath to ask generic questions, but for those who haven't had a chance to discover Eve to Adam yet, and this album's going to be a great way, the new album's going to be a great way to break them in, but take us back a little bit, if you would, for you, and maybe tell us when you were growing up, was there a moment of epiphany or something for you where you realized, whether it was an album, a concert, or something, a song even, where you realized, hey, this is what I want to do with my life?
Wow, you know what? Let's see. There was this singular moment for me where I really knew that I wanted to be a frontman, hard rock metal singer. It was really when I saw Metallica, and that was it was 92, 91, 92. It was just right as the Black Album was really breaking out, and I was I was 12 years old or so, I think, and I went with snuck out of the house with one of my buddy's uncles, who's older, and he had tickets and he could drive and everything, and we went and we saw them just destroy the Civic Center down in Fort Myers for 3 hours. And I just remember how bombastic of a show it was and how powerful his voice sounded, and he just tore the place apart, and I just remember in that experience, in that concert, I was that's what I want to do. I want to have that kind of impact and wield that kind of power, and pretty much ever since then, it was getting a guitar and taking lessons and, being in bands and, learning songs and covers and gigging. And it's just been it was a hobby that turned into an obsession, that turned into a life, that turned into a journey, and it's, my brother has shared the same dream, so we've been at this together now since we were basically 12 and 10, and now we're both in our early 30s, and, here we are, we're, been doing it together for a while, but now we've kind of reached a different level, and we're getting an opportunity to compete, with bands that we've really, we've admired as we've been growing, in our own way, and these bands have grown and become, pretty big powerhouses of the genre, and getting a chance to be played on radio and do some of these festivals with them, bands like Shine Down and, bands like Stone Sour and 3 Days Grace. And, we just got off the road with, this past fall, we did Hailstorm and In This Moment, which was an amazing experience to be out with, two amazing front women, who have incredible voices and stage presences, and so it's been an amazing experience, and quite a long evolution for us. And, I'm happy to say that we are here and we're better than ever. And I think this album really proves that we belong here.
Well, I was going to say, you and your brother must have found something of kindred spirit with Lizzie and R.J. Hale from Hailstorm.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, there were some great nights on their bus and our bus. You know, and we also know we got to meet their mother before we even toured with them, because she came to one of the shows we did with Creed last year in Melbourne, Florida, and we met her backstage, and she was really awesome. And at the time, we had just secured that Hailstorm tour, so she called Lizzie up right away, and she's like, I just saw who's going to be opening up your next tour, and they're fantastic, great openers. They're going to be great for you guys, nice guys, and yeah, they're really cool people. RJ and Lizzie are very special. They're extraordinary people, not just amazing musicians and artists, but very good, you know, spirits and souls, you know. And so it was cool, you know, to see another sibling duo really doing it their way and doing it well. And that was definitely a cool connection.
And you guys, your music, as opposed to a lot of bands coming out these days who are really trying to go more underground almost, if you will, you guys have really sort of built up that sound that we equate with like the bombastic rock bands that we grew up with and loved, like Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and stuff like that could fill arenas. And it's so good to hear that coming back around.
Well, you know, thanks for saying that. I mean, I know for a long time, you know, that's been kind of like a scarlet letter, you know, like nobody really wanted to embrace that. But looking back on the era where, you know, rock was dominant in audience and in concert sales, you know, I mean, I think like it's just time for that to come back. And in our own way, we're definitely waving that flag and, you know, lighting that flame up again. I mean, it's, I think you can be intense. I think you can be heavy, but I think also at the end of the day, any genre can attest to the fact that it's the songs that bring people, which is why like a Van Halen sells out, you know, in about 4 minutes still today.
Absolutely.
You know, they put out a great record. They put out a great record last year. Nothing against that record. I mean, it's phenomenal, but, it's not just that album, obviously. It's the catalog of greatness, you know, that they've had spanning, you know, over 3 decades, you know. So it's about songs, and it's about musicianship, and it's about putting on a show. And showmanship is a big deal, and that's something we've always embraced, and we've tried to always get better at, you know. I think, you know, as competitive as things are today, you know, when people take the time out of their schedules and put money down, hard-earned money, you know, to come and see you, they don't want to just hear the songs replicated. They want to be taken away. You know, they want that hour and a half or 2 hours or 45 minutes, whatever it is. They want to be transposed somewhere else, you know, and I think it's important not just as a musician, but as a performer to understand that, and that you have a responsibility to do that. You have to take the show to the next level. And, you know, I'm not ashamed to say that bands like that those are the ones that inspired me ultimately. You know, Guns N' Roses and, you know, Motley Crue, that in their prime, you know, that you'd be hard pressed to find a band that could beat their show, you know, and the show value was very important, but the songs is what fuels the show. And, you know, even a band like Bon Jovi, who just dominates because they have an amazing catalog of songs. And I think at the end of the day, it's about the songs, and that's what we really try to do with this album, is really, you know, stock it full of great material, you know, and that's where you can really tour for a while, you know, is having as many great songs as possible.
Well, and that's the thing. You said it always comes back to the music, and I don't know, even when I was a kid, I don't know anybody that grew up and deciding that they wanted to be a rock star or be in music who said, you know, I really want to write music that only 15 people are going to want to buy the album for so I can be eclectic and avant-garde. Everybody I knew wanted to be the next Kiss, the next Led Zeppelin, the next Nickelback, whoever you want to emulate.
Exactly. Insert band here. Exactly. Yeah, so. Exactly. I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, it's always been, you know, somewhere down the line, something happened where, you know, commercial success equated, you know, kind of, you know, a sellout of integrity or whatnot. Now be it, there have been some bands that have definitely crossed over and gone to that next level and sold gajillions of records and never really pushed the sonic landscape past that album. They kept putting out the same album, the same songs that worked. There's no doubt. And bands you mentioned, like, you know, Led Zeppelin dominated, but sonically always pushed the threshold. You know, and that's something that we see eye to eye on. I mean, I'm more in tune with something like that rather than just finding a formula and then just replicating it over and over again. And I can see where a lot of people have become dissatisfied with, modern hard rock or modern metal, commercial metal in a sense, that it's become, people find a certain niche and they just milk it for all it's worth over and over and over again exponentially. And that becomes very monotonous and becomes very boring. I completely agree with that. I'm more about turning it back to like bands of that era, more so than in the 70s, where Van Halen came out of, some of their greatest stuff was in the late 70s. And, you had Bad Company, and you had Led Zeppelin, you had Aerosmith, who was, one of the greatest arena bands of the 70s because they were edgy, they had amazing showmanship, an amazing adrenalized show, but great music, great material, and I think it's important to push both. You've got to push the show, but you've got to push the material constantly. You've got to always try to outdo yourself, and you've got to keep it fresh for yourself, and I think keeping it fresh for yourself keeps it fresh for your audience. And I think there have been too many bands lately, as of like maybe 5-7 years, say, of this last decade of modern commercial rock, where they've stumbled upon a sound and that was initially very cool and fresh, but subsequently milked it for all it was worth and have pretty much left, a bitterness out there with a lot of people that it's like, yeah, I've heard this one, but it was better 2 albums ago, So, it's difficult, man. I mean, it's, you've got to wave the flag for rock and for showmanship, but you've got to keep it creative and kind of keep it interesting. Muse is a band that I always bring up, and I know a lot of people, some people like them, some people don't get it, but, their show is phenomenal. They've got the musicianship, and they've got some pretty incredible material, and I think they're pushing the boundaries, which is very cool. I would just like to see that happen more for bands that are more so in this kind of American modern hard rock genre. I think that it's up to us to push the boundaries. No one else is going to do it. So, you know what I mean? So I think embracing that and moving forward with that is what it's about.
Well, and you said it. It always comes back to the song, because the songs are what's going to endure. And Van Halen's a perfect example. Last year, 2012, Van Halen's debut 1978 album still made the Billboard 200.
Yeah.
In 2012, Meatloaf.
It doesn't.
Meatloaf still sells 200,000 copies a year of his debut album, and you get bands who are at the top of their game supposedly right now who can't even sell 200,000 copies of their hit record. So you can't just blame it on the music industry and piracy when people are still buying hundreds of thousands of copies of albums that came out 30, 40 years ago.
Oh, no, I completely agree with you, and it's hard to beat those Jim Steinman songs. They're well-crafted, they're genius, and Meatloaf's interpretation and performance on those albums is nothing short of legendary, and the records of that era, it's just, there was a different level of craftsmanship put into them, and, same can be said for an artist like Adele. If that was true, then Adele would not have sold 10 million copies.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, good music will sell. I mean, maybe in like the day, 20 years ago, it would have sold, maybe 5 times more than that, but it still sells, and but you've got to really put the time into crafting great songs. And it's not easy to write great songs. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, obviously. So, we have had a sound for a while, and we have, pushed our boundaries as far as we felt we could. And on this new record, it was our suggestion to our management to co-write with people that we wanted to work with. We wanted input, and we wanted some new inspiration, and we wanted the chance to collaborate because we felt that would bring, some new enthusiasm and some new moments, and that's what we wanted to capture in the studio. So working with an Elvis Basquiat, working with Eric Bass of Shinedown, working with Dave Bassett, was a great experience for us because we were able to take everything that we've learned over our career and everything we've experienced and take it to the table with some people that were going to still allow us to be us. We weren't going to compromise that. As far as signature-wise, it still had to be us. It had to be something that I could stand behind, that I would sing night in and night out, material-wise. And we were still generating the concepts and stuff. But it was really great to have somebody to play the ideas off of and have their input that way, and keeping the creative spirit flowing that way. So, but again, that was generated from us. We generated that intent. We wanted to be better. We wanted to, we didn't take it as a slight on ourselves, because we still went in with confidence, because we know what we can do. We also knew what we needed to improve on, and we were willing to ask for help. And I think that's important, because it's an admission of saying to yourself that I don't know everything, and that's a very important thing for an artist to do, because it's admitting to themselves and being honest with themselves that there's room for growth and room for improvement, and you still have the best that you have to offer is still in front of you. And that was a big step for us, but that was a step that we took on our own, because it's about looking yourself in the mirror and being really factual and saying, hey, you know what? I'm really good at A, B, and C. D, E, and F, though, I really need some work on, and I need some help, and I want to push that boundary, and I want to make it better, and I want to make the best album I've ever made in my whole career. And when you go in with that kind of attitude, and we were lucky enough to have the management that got us some really great people to work with, stellar talents, with the right attitude and energy, this was possible. And Locked and Loaded came as a culmination of all of that similar focus and similar spirit. And I think that's what being an artist is about, and I think that's what being a musician is about. Is always thinking to yourself that you can do it better. There's always something that you can reach for something better. And I think that the artists that I have always adhered to and have always inspired me, they're legendary, and that's what I inspired that song Immortal that's on this new album. It's about not being good, and it's not even being great. It's about wanting to be a legend. And reaching for that status is something way different than just making a living or selling a few units or selling out a few clubs. If you want to play the Garden, and bands like Zeppelin and Van Halen and Guns N' Roses, these were bands that, they owned the Garden, and in my genre of rock, now it takes 5 bands to sell out what one band used to do. I'm here to change that.
Right. And when you guys did Banquet for a Starving Dog, very good album. But with Locked and Loaded, you guys have really gone to that next level, and you did have some incredible people: Bass, Bassett, Basket, Bass. So,
yeah,
but
yeah, we call them the Killer Bees. That's what we call them. The production team, the Killer Bees. Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with seeing what you're doing through the prism of somebody else's eyes and getting their perspective and some input, because it helps you grow as a writer as well. Nobody is ever going to say anything negative about Aerosmith, but when they retooled and started again in the 80s, they brought in Desmond Child and some outside writers and I know you've worked with Desmond before, to get some outside perspective. And then they just kept rolling from there, because they grew and they learned more. They put more tools in their kit and continued with the strengths they already had. And it's great to see that people can do that. And you guys have done that with this album.
Well, thank you, man. I was really proud of Banquet for a Starving Dog, and it was a solid effort, and there's some really great moments on that record. But, I like to equate it in the sense of Alice in Chains' Facelift was a really cool record, and it had Man in the Box on it. But then Dirt was like a whole other level, you know what I mean? And I like to think that, Banquet was a singular moment, and it had a few angles on it. It was okay. But Locked and Loaded is a complete different evolution, and it's a much more complete artistic statement, and songwriting's on a different level. Everything, you do your best work when your back's up against the wall too. And it's the kind of record where, we had to, this was a have to moment. It wasn't even a want to, it was a have to, and when you're fighting for everything you worked for and your life is culminating to one singular moment, it really came down to this album for us, and, we had to renew our faith in the faith that the label and management had in the band, and our audience, and everything that we have, had garnered up to the point. So, when you have that kind of motivation, great things are going to happen, if you're willing and open to allow them to happen, which, thankfully we were, because, we're not, we're a lot of things, but we're not stupid. We know we were given a great opportunity, and we were going to make the most of it. And, I'm glad to hear that you listening to the album, you feel the same way.
Absolutely. And having had some other people work with you on this, getting a different perspective and doing something so big and new, can you share with us if there's like one or two songs on the album that really perhaps speak to you more loudly than the others for a specific reason?
You know what? It's so tough to distinguish between them, but they're very children-esque in a sense, family-like. But I really love Immortal. I love playing that song live. I like seeing the effect that it has on people in an audience that have never even heard the song. I really enjoyed playing Bender because it has like a really trashy kind of quality to it, and it's a dark party song, which kind of reminds me back to days of Guns N' Roses, like My Michelle or It's So Easy, where it's like it's an anthem for Night Train, in the sense where it's like it's a song about going out and getting fucked up, but there's a consequence to it. And I really love the lyric, the honesty of the lyric, in that I love this feeling, God damn it, like knowing that you're hooked on this, and it makes you feel a certain way, but there's consequences with it, So Bender and Immortal for sure, but the sentiment and my heart really lives and breathes Shut Out the World, because it's really the first time I've ever felt as a writer where I've been able to write a ballad that was completely honest about a moment that I've experienced, through a relationship I had. And like I was able to really fully capture the sentiment of how that moment felt. And I think it's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people, especially with the way the world has come to be, where everything is moves so quickly and technology rules so much of our lives today, where it's so difficult to disconnect, that a concept like the song Shut Out the World, where you can have, you have to kind of make an effort to barricade yourself from all of these distractions that are constantly around, so that you can actually focus on the things that matter, which are, the relationships and with the people that you love, that mean the most to you in your life, And it's sad that it's battle today, because, you have to cognitively make a decision that this is time now for this. I need to disconnect. No more email, no more this, no more that, no more internet, but that's where we're at. So I think it's a sign, it's a song of the times. And I think it's something that, a song like that will resonate with a larger audience, but I'll be real honest with you. I love playing every single song on this record. And, we've had a few shows in now. And a lot of, a song like Crime Scene, where you think, like, I don't know, is that going to resonate, And I've seen people just completely light up to that song. And so, they all have a certain quality to them, and I really enjoy playing them all. But those would be the three that I feel I'm most proud of for different sentiments that I was able to communicate as a writer and as a singer.
And speaking of touring and playing the stuff on the road, I know you guys are playing with my buddies in Pop Evil tomorrow, but what's going on in terms of touring? Is there a big tour coming up that you're able to tell us about? And how much of the new album are you going to play?
I wish I could tell you about it. I know there's a huge tour that they're planning right now, and they're my managers are amazing and dedicated to us, but they're kind of like old school 70s, like wise guy style. They don't tell us very much, and so we're on a need-to-know basis, So I know they're working on. There's something that them and the agency group are very close to locking down right now. I can guarantee you this: we're going to be on the road this summer in a very big way, and as this single keeps climbing up the charts, I know that there's going to be a lot of offers to play everywhere. Now, as far as how much of this album we're going to be playing, we're going to be playing pretty much as much of it as possible in the time slots we're given. Right now, we're only playing a few of the older material. We're still running with Reach and Run Your Mouth,
right.
And we'll throw in something off of Queens to Eden every once in a while, or Two Pills, or A Gift, or possibly 151. But that's it. I mean, if we could play this whole record, we will play this whole record. You know what I mean? We've rehearsed this entire album. The band is very well versed with all the material. It's really starting to gel. Luis Espaillat and Adam Latif have been unbelievable, amazing additions to this group. This is the best lineup this band has ever had. You've heard the album, so you know the level of production on the album. We are representing this album very well sonically. We are running some minimal production for the electronic sounds and samples that are on the record, but I'm lucky to be with two guys that can sing really well, so the harmonies are there. We're representing everything. And the guitar parts, Adam is a great rhythm guitar player, and Garv, recorded so many amazing parts on this record, so everything is there, so there's a lot of, intertwined guitar solos, and there's counterparts and counterpoint rhythms that are going and stuff. I mean, it's some crazy stuff, and it's kind of, something we've always wanted to really do, really maximize on the musicality of our albums, and especially with this one, really bring that to life, but not just depending on production, really depending on, the band performing these parts properly, So I think people are, I can tell you right now, we've just a few shows in, there were some people that never heard of us and were just completely floored by what they saw, because, like I said, the band is gelling, and there's great showmanship on the stage, but also the core and the foundation of the band is the musicianship, and being able to replicate these songs with passion in the moment, I think, is what's really going to translate to a lot of audience, because there's a lot of bands out there right now that are just mailing it in. And I think we're going to be able to come along and be like, hey, you know what? This is actually how this is supposed to sound. And that's what we're banking on. And that's what we go on to do every night. That's why we still do this, because that's the real quest. And that's what really still excites us and gets us off.
Awesome. I know you're doing a ton of interviews today. You probably got another one right after me too, but last question then, just for fun and totally pointless question of the week. If you could eliminate any single pop culture trend or person right now, what would you eradicate?
Gangnam Style. That guy, I would hit delete. Delete never happened, ever. Gone. And I think that, that would be, I did not hesitate at all. That would be the number one thing. I hear that song and I just want to hurt people. It just makes me crazy. So yeah, I would get rid of that guy. That guy, Psy, adios, bud. You're gone.
Awesome. Taki from Eve to Adam, the new album Locked and Loaded, out May 21st. Going to be out on the road all summer and well into next year, no doubt. Check their webpage for the tour, eve2adam.com. Make sure you keep up to date on that and buy the record. Don't illegally download it. Taki, thanks so much for taking the time, brother.
Dude, it's my pleasure. Hopefully we'll see you out on the road, and we'll give you an update after the album comes out, all right?
Sounds good. Take care, man.
Take care, man. Bye.